Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. I appreciate your joining with us. It is Friday. It is Good Friday, in fact. And we'll be joined by Doreen as she usually does on Friday mornings. And we're going to talk with specificity this morning about the Monsanto Protection Act. That was a bill which was actually, that's not what they called it, but that's what it in reality became. Again, our federal government has passed a legislative action which provided for Monsanto to gain some benefits as a result of another funding bill for the military. I don't understand how, why, and or under what circumstances our Congress continues to allow bills to be snuck into these financial bills or clauses or additional legislative initiatives to be snuck into these financial bills. Hey, folks in Congress, it's time for you to wake up and act accordingly. Do not allow these types of extraneous bills, which have absolutely nothing to do with finance, to be snuck into these bills. Enough of that nonsense is enough. In my bullet points this morning, I want to talk about the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which was passed in 1984, originally to combat cracking and hijacking of large computer systems that were owned by financial institutions, banks, large industry, and the government. Now, 7 amendments later, and 30 years later, of course, this law is regarded by many lawyers and academics as overly expansive and way too broad in its sweeping power. It lets the government incarcerate, quote, any internet user they want. And that's according to a federal former prosecutor whose name is Orrin Kerr. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act is the most outrageous criminal law you've never heard of, says Tim Wicks. He's a Columbia law professor and the pioneer of network neutrality. And he wrote in the New Yorker, it bans unauthorized access of computers, but no one really knows what those words mean. Anytime, ladies and gentlemen, that you hear vague terms like that, you have to recognize why they're left vague. They're left vague so that people can be prosecuted on a one-off basis to prohibit them or bar them from access when they are not politically correct or are, for whatever reason, considered or construed to be a threat. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, as it currently stands, was the law that was used by prosecutors to charge the Aaron Swartz. Now, he was the activist who committed suicide back in January. And the way that they work this stuff is basically they rush these things through, as you know, and Congress just basically lets stuff get shoved through without any question. Of course, if it's to your benefit, it never gets through. If it's to expand powers and enlarge their ability for control, well, of course, they all get through. So, unfortunately, at this point, this new draft of this bill expands the number of ways that people can be prosecuted. And the language that they use is dangerous. Because what they say is they can prosecute anyone, quote, who conspires to commit violations like those that have already completed the offense. Now, this is pre-crime type law. And in addition to that, they've added another definition which allows them to use computer crime as a form of racketeering activity. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with how the government views and handles racketeering, basically they utilize racketeering as a method to get anyone who they really want, who they can't get with any other law, and so they hit them under the RICO statutes. RICO is a racketeering system or law which enables them to basically charge anyone with anything and call it racketeering, and basically they can then throw them in prison for a long period of time. Now, this gives the Department of Justice these broad and abusive powers, quite frankly. And, I mean, the last group we want to have additional power is the Department of Justice. I mean, this is, these are the kinds of people that we already see are abusing virtually everything that their oath is supposed to prohibit them from doing. And what this does is provide for maximum sentences that have certain violations, included in them. So I'm just going to read this particular paragraph because it's actually quite appropriate. Here's an example of the extreme nature of these recommended punishments. Aaron Schwartz, who illegally tapped into and downloaded millions of scholarly papers from a digital journal archive called JSTOR while visiting the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, faced 4 charges under this CFAA. The maximum sentences of 5 years per charge, which would have given him a potential of 20 years in prison. So, even though many lawyers and experts have recommended reducing these penalties or removing them entirely, the new draft actually increases the maximum of each charge under this particular clause to 20 years, which means Schwartz could have gotten 80 years in prison. Now, here's the most troubling aspect to this. Internet freedom advocates and those people like the Electronic Frontier Foundation and also groups like that, their concern is that this allows the law, or the expansion of the law, allows them to include accessing information for an impermissible purpose. What exactly is an impermissible purpose? I mean, that is so vague that it should be struck on its face. Because basically what it states is that, first of all, you would have to have permission to gain access into the system in order to capture whatever information they're talking about. But that you used it for an impermissible purpose. What would that be? I mean, could someone be charged with this because they put up a photograph, as an example, of someone and didn't get their permission? In other words, it's considered a crime if someone else may deem that you're using this or misusing this information and the access to it in some way. The example that Kerr, who was the prosecutor, the former federal prosecutor, and he's a computer law expert and a former federal prosecutor, the language that he has a problem with is, and this is the example he uses, it would make it a felony to lie about your age on an online dating profile if you intended to contact someone online and ask them personal questions, or if you violate the terms of service on a government website. In short, this is a step backward, not a step forward. This is a proposal to give the DOJ what it wants, not to amend the CFAA in a way that would narrow it. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has come out and is making attempts to tackle the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act with its own alternative proposal. Now, this includes eliminating duplicative penalties and reducing computer crime from a felony to a misdemeanor. And they, of course, offer methods by which you can contact your congressman to, raise Cain about this. Here's the problem, folks. When you look at what's happening in our nation today, we know that Obama has signed executive orders that gives him these broad authorities over all communications networks and so forth and so on, in the event of a natural or national emergency, which he can declare unilaterally. Combine that with a bill like this, and they can selectively allow those people and organizations that they want to have internet access, but ban everyone else. Folks, if you don't think we're living in a police state, I strongly encourage you to open your eyes and see what's going on around you, because we are a nation in danger. And the bombs from the left and the progressives are danger close. Danger close to wiping out your freedom. We'll be right back.
The area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, your Class 3 dealer for automatic weapons and suppressors, including Gemtech and Huntertown, with a great selection of holsters, slings, magazines, and gun storage options. West Plains Pawn and Jewelry will also do special orders. With new arrivals every week, the area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, 1713 West U.S. Highway 160, or shop online at westplainspawn.com.
The further we reach out, the closer we all become. Hey, it's Nate Cooper here with the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. I invite you to join us Sunday mornings. The program is a combination of local and national known speakers. So I encourage you to do two things. Listen in on Sunday mornings from 8 until noon and find out how you can become a sponsor of one of the programs. Just call our offices at 255-0427. Beyond the Point, Sundays on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Now that was a painless commercial break, wasn't it? Whole idea of commercial breaks is that that's what pays the bills to keep this station on the air for you. Doreen is going to join us in just a moment. I do want to mention one thing. Well, a couple of things real quickly. One, we have a concealed carry class that's going off tomorrow morning. And if you want to participate in that, you certainly can. The gentleman who's going to be teaching that, his name is Darren Walters. You can reach him at 417-270-1053. And he's got a great offer for those folks who are listeners who want to participate. It's going to be held here in West Plains at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can call Darren at 417-270-1053. And here's the cool part. He's going to charge a mere $50 for you to get your CCW. And if you don't have a pistol, he'll make pistols and ammo available to you for a mere $10. So basically, it's $60 if you need to use his equipment and ammo, or $50 if you bring your own. You need 140 rounds of ammunition to do the testing. Folks, you're not going to beat this price anywhere. But, you can certainly try, but I think you'll be hard-pressed to do that. If you're interested, you can certainly call Darren. His phone number is 417-270-1053, and you can reach him via email at wildboy1978@yahoo.com. That's wildboy1978@yahoo.com. And the 1978 is like the numerics, not the, don't spell it out. Wildboy, W-I-L-D-B-O-Y, 1978. Tomorrow morning, we are also going to have our reloading class. Now, that will start off at 9 a.m. as well, and that's being held in West Plains also at 1378 Bill Verdon Boulevard. That's the extension of Broadway that goes down past the high school after you pass the Civic Center, and like you're going towards the Catholic Church, or 63 Business, and where you hit 63 South, the main highway. It's in the Eastgate Plaza, or Eastgate Village, which is that strip mall that looks like an older European village. It's going to be held on just go to the right side of there. You'll see the location. It's $100. You'll learn how to reload metallic cartridges. You'll walk out of there with a ton of information. I strongly encourage you to participate if there's any way, shape, and form that you can. You can bring your registration money tomorrow morning. Please bring cash, no checks, no credit cards, and bring yourself a pen, a pencil, a notepad, and perhaps a highlight marker or something. Outside of that, the only other thing you need is that wonderful mind that God has given you. Also, on April 6th and 7th, we are having our 2-day TAC 1 pistol course. If you are interested in attending that, please make sure that you send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org, or you can call 293-3737 and ask for Don. That's 417-293-3737. And you can schedule yourself for that class. That class is $175, normally $225, so you get a $50 discount for participating in our radio programs every day. Okay, good morning, Doreen.
Well, good morning, Michael.
How are you?
I am just lovely, thank you very much.
And you are lovely indeed.
Oh, yeah. I meant I'm fine.
Now.
Now.
Hey, we had the wonderful Monsanto Act that was slipped in as House Resolution 933.
Right.
And the president has signed that, and it was shoved into a spending bill because they knew it would never pass muster on its own. And they don't call it the Monsanto Protection Act, but that's the nickname, kind of like the Obamacare nickname.
Right. I think it's called the Farmer's Assurance. Yeah.
Basically, here's the deal. Farmers, we assure you that we're going to screw you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's right, and you will enjoy it.
Right, and you're going to like it.
Yes, desperately.
The problem with this is, and I read a very interesting article on it, it effectively bars the federal courts from being able to halt the sale or the planting of genetically modified or genetically engineered seeds, right. Even if later on we find that after all of the studies that are being done prove that it's dangerous to us, there's nothing that the federal courts can do to ban it.
Right.
Now, to me, that sounds like the most unconstitutional thing on the face of the planet. How do you sit and tell us that even though we know that that this company might be, let's say we've got empirical proof that these seeds cause cancer or cause brain damage or cause, your fingernails to fall off. I don't care what it is. Mm-hmm. The simple truth is that anytime you've got a government that tells you that you have no way to redress that problem with the judicial system,
right,
that's unconstitutional on its face.
Well, yes, there's no balance of power here.
Well, the problem is I think really comes down to this. Monsanto spends literally hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying these Congress people.
Right. And
basically, they, in fact, our own dear Senator Roy Blunt,
yes.
who I will use some blunt language to describe him, treasonous. How's that? He has that is the blunt word for Mr. Blunt. Treasonous, because what he has done is violated every section of any oath that he has ever taken to protect the citizens of Missouri against government, and that is his sole job. That's right. It. Nothing more, nothing less. And he, again, like every other time he votes, has jumped into the bandwagon with these people. In fact, he worked in collusion with Monsanto to write sections of this bill.
Actually, Michael, Monsanto wrote the bill. Working in collusion, this is one of the things that, unfortunately, most people are unaware of. There is very little legislation that's actually written by the legislator.
Right. Agreed.
Okay? And
agreed.
What happens is they go and they shop a bill around. And, of course, they're going to go to the people who they've compromised the most through the funding mechanisms for their campaigns and everything else.
Right.
The ones they have the hook set deepest into their lip in. And then they get them to introduce legislation and to do such things as was done in this bill. This is in extending the appropriation so that the USDA was threatening to furlough all of these meat inspectors, right?
Yeah.
Which would affect 6.5 million people in their employment in this country, okay? Give or take, 500,000. So this bill was put out there to be like the great savior of shutting down the entire meat industry and all of the distribution points, et cetera, and any of the processors that depend upon that stream from the meat packing plants. So they're saying, hallelujah, we passed this bill, isn't that great, we're wonderful, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and by the way, in there is something that has absolutely nothing to do with appropriations and is very destructive, not only to farmers, but to freedom in general, and also to consumers, Michael.
Right.
See, a couple of years ago, there was a Supreme Court case called Treason versus Monsanto, Treason Seed Company, and they won the case. And the issue was that about gene flow on genetically modified alfalfa, okay? So the Supreme Court told the USDA that they could not approve this stuff unless they did a thorough environmental impact study. And then Congress, including our lovely Joanne Emerson, 75 Congress people got together and petitioned the USDA to approve Roundup Ready alfalfa without the environmental impact assessment because, my gosh, we absolutely had to put that in the ground or we'd all die. And so the USDA went against the Supreme Court's instructions and did that, and he approved Roundup Ready beets at the same time. And it's like there is no force of law here. There is no constraint on corporate control. Corporations get bills put in that benefit them solely. And here we sit with cross-contamination from, the genetically modified crops and no capacity for redress in the courts.
It's amazing. I mean, what they're doing is they're basically saying that the judicial system in our nation has no power, and they are putting corporate interests above and beyond the law, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incontrovertible what they've done here. Roy Blunt actually had this to say. What it says is if you plant a crop that is legal to plant when you plant it, you get to harvest it, but it is only a 1-year protection in the bill. Well, forgive me for saying so, Mr. Blunt, but if you were to grow marijuana in Colorado, I'll just use this as an example, and then the federal government came in and cracked down, do you think they'd allow you to harvest it?
Right.
I doubt it.
Right.
Okay. So, and I'm not even a proponent or an advocate of pot. I don't even like it. I don't want anybody to smoke it. I think you shouldn't because it makes you stupid. But the problem is that what he's saying here is that this is okay, even though we've got proven harmful effects.
Right.
That there's nothing that the courts can do to bar them from harvesting this and then putting it out on the marketplace.
Exactly.
I mean, don't we have an FDA that says, well, wait a second, you tested this drug and it looked good, but then when the general public started taking it, we found out that everybody was growing a third eye in their forehead, so we got to take it off the market. I mean, don't we do that every day?
Well, if you watch the standard television news, it seems like there's about 5 new recalls on things that the FDA approved.
Right. But I mean, what's the difference between Monsanto and, say, Pfizer or Squibb, right? Nothing other than the fact that Monsanto was bought and paid for this piece of crap.
Not just that.
And when I say piece of crap, I mean Roy Blunt.
Well, Monsanto is 85% owned by Pfizer. So what they have is a complex where Monsanto makes you sick and Pfizer gives you drugs to treat your symptoms.
Hello.
Yes. And it's the same with Syngenta and Novartis.
I mean, I tell you.
We have biotech, bio crops that have never had thorough studies done on them as far as whether they are actually safe or not, with a whole lot of evidence that points to the fact that they are very likely not safe for consumption. You have no capacity to have any requirements on your food labeling that there is genetically modified stuff in there. And then you have drug companies that do their own testing, give their results to the FDA, and the FDA says, okay, you can have that. So we've got a massive corporate revolving door complex at the federal level subjecting us to whatever medical experimentation they want to without oversight or the capacity for redress in court now.
I mean, Bill Marrier, who's a Seattle attorney, had this to say. I think any time you tweak with the ability of the public to seek redress from the courts, you create a huge risk. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'd say that language was not exactly strong enough.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, I think John Tester said it better. He's the senator from Montana. These provisions are giveaways, pure and simple, and will be a boon worth millions of dollars to a handful of the biggest corporations in the country. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a more accurate statement.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break because, well, we have to do that. And when we return, we will talk more about this and then take your calls as well. Hang on, folks. We'll be with you in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Mike Evans, and we are speaking with the wonderful Doreen Hannes this morning. Her website can be found at truthfarmer.com. She is also a writer and the purveyor of the Property Rights Coalition group, and their website can be found at prcnews.org. That's P like Peter, R like Romeo, C like Charlie, prcnews.org. We'll be back in just a moment.
News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. A patient with no risk factors comes down with hepatitis and HIV, leading Oklahoma health officials to a dentist's office with dirty equipment.
Patients of Dr. Harrington's were at risk of exposure to infectious material that may have contained hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, or HIV.
Christy Bradley with the Oklahoma Health Department. 7,000 patients of Dr. W. Scott Harrington are getting letters saying, get tested. He's voluntarily given up his dentist license. It's Good Friday, marking the day when Jesus was crucified and buried. Special Mass held at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem.
Jesus, remember me.
Hundreds of Christians praying and carrying wooden crosses through Jerusalem's Old City. Consumer spending and income were both up last month. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Visit our outstanding sponsors, West Plains Pawn, located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. West Plains Pawn can be found on the web at westplainspawn.com. You can also reach them via telephone at 417-256-3000. The battery station at 303 Washington Avenue, right off the square in West Plains. They can be reached via telephone at 417-257-7799. They can also be found on the web at batterystation.com. My friends at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. Brian can be reached at 870-492-4030, and he's located at 3225 Route 62, 1/2 mile east of Walmart in Mountain Home. Make sure that you visit our friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. They have an outstanding lunch special buffet. You can have salad as well as pizza and other pasta, so you can have something tasty and something healthy. Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 2930116. Bill Stone does remodeling, custom and new construction, light commercial, farm work, pretty much the gamut. If you're interested in doing some kind of a new project, make sure that you give Bill Stone at Stone Construction an opportunity to bid on that job. And my dear friend, Mary, over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade, right off the square in West Plains. She can be reached via telephone at 255-2253. She's got the best damn bakery in 100 miles. And thanks so much to our phone line sponsor, Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop. You can call us on the Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline. He is on the square in West Plains. Excellent opportunity for you to get your hair cut. Get over there and visit.
I know what you're thinking, Bunk. You're thinking, did he fire 6 shots or only 5?
Dirty Harry gets all his ammo from the battery station. John Rambo, you guessed it. He gets his ammo from the battery station, too. So if you need ammo, go to the place where the guys who know about ammunition go, the battery station. They have one of the largest supplies of ammunition in the area. So make sure you're stocked up and don't get low on shells. Go to the battery station at 303 Washington Avenue in West Plains.
News Talk 107 The Point weather sponsorships are available for your business marketing plans. Contact Cody or Josh at 255-2548 for more information.
From the Point Weather Center, for this morning, we'll have clouds and showers. Showers through the day today. The high temperature 60. Mostly cloudy tonight with a couple of showers. Low 46. Tomorrow, clouds, maybe a shower or thunderstorm. High 62. Mostly sunny for Easter Sunday. High 64. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
America's Voice Now, delivering truth over mainstream propaganda every single day. Hi, my name is Michael Evans, and I'm your host, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and Saturday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Join me daily for important guests and my unique slant on hot topics in the news. Visit americasvoicenow.org for even more news, articles, and commentary, and watch our show streaming live to your PC. Share your morning with me. Get educated, informed, motivated, and activated. America's Voice Now, right here on 107.1. All right, we're returning. We're going to take some calls from our listener audience. Phone lines are lit up. Good morning, caller.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine. Damp, but that's good. And hi, Doreen.
Hello.
But I'm here to talk about the GMOs.
Yes, sir.
And the only power we have is the power of the purse. If we tell all these farmers that I don't care how many acres you grow with GMO, I ain't buying it. I ain't buying no beef. I ain't buying no chicken. I ain't buying no eggs.
Yeah, but you don't even know how many of them are using it because we're not allowed to know what's behind the label.
Right.
But you you do because the ones that aren't using it say organic or whatever, right?
No, stop right there. You can still put the label organic on there, even though it is not completely organic. That's the problem.
But they can't.
It's like saying low fat. You know, that's
right.
a subjective term.
Here's the problem. The problem is that they have effectively cut off the relationship between the farmer and the consumer. And the farmer cannot get a decent price for his product because he cannot go to the consumer. You've got all of these middlemen and all of these quote-unquote safety mechanisms put into position. So people, one, don't know what they're eating, two, don't know how it's grown, three, can't get things labeled so that they actually know what's in it, and four, you have to understand that the USDA and the FDA are not at all interested in protecting the food supply. They are interested in furthering the control of the corporate power structure. That's
yes, ma'am, I understand that. But a couple years ago, organic grown corn bushels was $30 a bushel when corn was bringing almost $8. You do the math, and they were certified organic grown corn. And it was a chicken hatchery was selling. You didn't even have to pay the freight. But they said, this is organic, it's $30 a bushel. Well, I would give $30 a bushel for my chicken before I ate them GMOs because it ain't going to kill me, right? And they had the market because they told me, hey, we can ship it whenever you want it. And these farmers said, oh, we can only get GMO seed. I said, no, you can get the regular seed if you choose to plant GMO and quit telling us that hogwash because it's not allowed in Europe. They don't allow it over there. And when the consumer stands up and says, hey, we ain't buying it, you can, feed it to yourself, but we don't want it.
Right.
And until the consumer does, it's like Walmart in China. Consumer says, Walmart, we ain't buying a thing made in China, and nobody shows up there. Guess what? Walmart either goes out of business or buys American. I tried to buy a shovel one time. I went to like 7 different stores. They were all made in China, so I went to the flea market and bought a used one made in USA, and I got a shovel. That's
so you're saying vote with your dollars is what you're saying.
Exactly. That's one thing to understand. If you sit and complain, oh, well, we're going to try, but when you vote with your dollar, they're going to listen because they ain't got a place to sell it.
Well, we agree with that 100%,
yeah.
And thank you for reminding us that that's the right course to take.
That's the only course.
All right. Hey, thanks so much.
You bet.
Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Same subject, different direction.
Doreen's on with us, too.
Pardon me?
Doreen is on with us, too.
I hear that. I like that. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but I like it.
Okay.
She's got good ideas and concepts. The thing about the limitation of liability is that when they passed this for firearms manufacturers, we love the idea. Now it's come along, turned around, and bit us from the left side.
Well, this isn't a limitation of liability. This eliminates and takes power away from the courts to make lawful.
Same thing.
No,
Same thing. Courts have been now, Michael. I know a little bit about this. The courts have been prevented from seeking damages against firearms manufacturers and ammunition companies.
Here's the big difference here.
I don't. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Doreen.
A firearm, say that it gets used improperly or for some reason it is actually unsafe for the user. It doesn't go and spread across the entire county.
Well, first of all, hold on a second. If a firearm is improperly manufactured and causes damage, there is no liability protection for that manufacturer. And yet we're talking about something which is a genetically modified product that if it causes your body injury, they are given immunity, which is a vast difference. That's not the same thing.
It's not a vast difference. It is a difference.
It is a vast difference. One has immunity, the other doesn't, for a product which malfunctions. That's the difference. That's a big difference. That is the difference.
It's a concept of law. It's not a major difference.
One says that you can go back to that manufacturer and say either correct this problem and fix it or stop producing that product. And the other says it doesn't matter whether there's a problem with it or not. You're free to do as you choose, and there's nothing that we can do under the law to stop you. That would be like going to Boeing and saying, we know those batteries are burning up your airplanes, but go ahead and keep making them anyway. And there's nothing the courts could do to stop you. And, by the way, we're giving you immunity from being sued by the passengers who die in the plane that crashes because you built a faulty product. That's a vast difference. I don't see the correlation between the immunity. The immunity you're talking about for firearms manufacturers is because cities were utilizing the argument that firearms were inherently malfunctioning,
right,
which is vastly different than whether they truly malfunctioned. A firearm doesn't kill anyone. The person who's holding it does. Now, GMOs are completely different. You can ingest them without even knowingly doing so and cause bodily injury to yourself, but you didn't. But that's because you weren't told that it was in there, or you were misled by the manufacturer to let you think that there was something that wasn't there.
The biggest issue is the gene
I can
flow.
see your point, but I don't think that we're as far apart as you'd think we'd be on that.
Oh, yes, I think we are.
Liability is, the concept of liability concerning firearms manufacturers. I mean, face it, they have been largely protected, and I agree with that. I mean, I'm as far right on this subject as you can get right now.
But here's my point, I think, Glenn. The firearms manufacturers and this law for Monsanto as a giveaway are two completely different things. And to try to draw a correlation between them is the equivalent of trying to draw a correlation between a rock and a banana. You can't do it. One is food, the other is not. And you just can't draw that correlation between the two. I don't see the connection. I mean, I understand the concept of providing immunity for a producer or a manufacturer.
I'm willing to concede the point, but what I'm not willing to do is concede that it's not going to be used as a tool across the board.
Well, this is not even the same type of legislation, though. This says that even if the judges determine that this product is faulty, they are barred from exercising their constitutional duty to protect the public. That's completely different.
Yeah, and it totally subverts the regulatory.
I'm willing to concede that I might be wrong on this, but when you're limiting liability, I mean, that applies to a whole lot of other things.
But this isn't limiting. This isn't a limitation of liability. This is a prohibition against a company, an individual company, by the way, from being able to be barred from producing and transporting something into the marketplace that could be dangerous to the people who are going to ingest it. That's completely different. That's not immunity to produce. This is immunity from prosecution.
It prohibits.
It's blanket immunity, correct?
It's what?
It's what?
It's blanket immunity. It's a complete prohibition of liability against the company.
No, it's saying that even if you produce it and it turns out later on that this is harmful to you, you're still entitled to harvest it and sell it in the marketplace.
Okay, I think we're lost here. I'm lost.
Okay. Well, and I get it, but
is this, or is the company not protected from liability from growing their product and distributing it?
It isn't exactly that. What this is mostly about is the proliferation of life forms that contaminate other life forms and they are being guaranteed entry into the food supply, okay, with no oversight. So that's where the liability aspect for Monsanto has reared its ugly head.
What this is purchased preservation.
Yes.
Okay.
And proliferation.
And it's not immunity from prosecution, because what they're saying is you can sue us, and even if the judge finds in your favor, there's nothing the judge can do. That's vastly different from you can't sue us at all.
Right. Right.
And in addition to that, one of these things means that, or one of these issues, the Monsanto issue, says that if it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that this product is dangerous, there's nothing the courts can do to preserve or stop us from producing this product and putting it into the marketplace. And that is completely separate from something that says you can't use an argument of a product being dangerous just by its very nature and create an immunity situation for a firearms manufacturer from a junk lawsuit. The two are so diametrically opposed, they're not even in the same universe
right.
of law.
what this bill actually does is open the door.
I'll be honest, I'll have to do some research.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break,
okay.
And when we return, we can finish hacking on this thing, and also we'll take some other calls from you folks if you want to inject your opinions into this. We appreciate the opinions of everyone, and that's what this is about, right? Let's talk about it and educate ourselves about it. We'll be back in just a moment.
The area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry.
Online at westplainspawn.com.
Top of the line new and used optics from Nikon, Leopold, Burris, Redfield, Zeiss, and Schmidt & Bender. Ask about their selection of binoculars, laser sights, and night vision goggles. With new arrivals every week, the area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, 1713 West U.S. Highway 160, or shop online at westplainspawn.com.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
At an event thrown by the website Politico, Bill Gates said, quote, "Some days I wish we had a system like the UK, quote, to give Obama more power." Yeah, some days I wish Windows worked like Apple. How's that, Billy Boy? These guys are fetishistic. He's in the, he wants it to work more like the UK. He wants to see Obama padding around in one of those powder
Weekdays
wigs.
from 9 till noon, it's the Dennis Miller Zone on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Real freedom is the ability to succeed and the ability to fail. The ability to work yourself to death and the ability to die from starvation because you ain't doing anything. That's what freedom is. To chart your own course. To be your own person. It's the freedom to choose your own course and not have it defined by somebody else.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Weekdays from 2 to 5, it's Glenn Beck on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
There's one man on this earth who really, truly gets it.
The Democrat Party is not the Democrat Party of 40, 50, 60 years ago. The Democrat Party is a radical left party, populated at the top by 1960s retreads and other sorts of radicals, miscreants, and malcontents, many of whom aren't from the 1960s, but they might as well be, including the president himself.
Weeknights from 5 till 8, Mark Levin on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Okay, folks, we're back. We're joined again by Doreen Hannes. Doreen is the creator of the truthfarmer.com blog and website, where she really gives you folks an opportunity to really keep up on what's going on out there in the agricultural world, and not limited to that, but that's the primary focus. Outstanding blog. It's called truthfarmer.com. And there's very few people I know who are more active and or educated about what's going on in our agricultural world and our property rights and the loss thereof than Doreen. Secondarily, she is the contributor and I believe pretty much the founding member of the Property Rights Coalition website called prcnews.org. That's prcnews.org. If you are an individual who's interested in participating in either of those types of events or activist areas, make sure that you visit both of those websites. Go ahead, caller. We will take your call.
Hey, guys, yesterday was National Let's Help Monsanto Day, wasn't it?
Yes, by hook or by crook.
Yeah, the Monsanto bailout day.
Key operative word on crook, but go ahead.
Yeah, and you talked about Senator Blunt. You might mention also, Doreen, the communication from Roy Blunt Jr., Mr. Jason Smith.
Oh, Roy Blunt. Gotcha.
We have some Monsanto-friendly activity going on in Jeff City, don't we?
Right. Yes, we absolutely do. We have federal Monsanto Protection Acts, and we have state-level Monsanto Protection Acts. And, Jason Smith, who is, Michael, you had him on your show last week. He's running for U.S. Congress, going to take over Emerson's seat, and Emerson's daughter happened to be a lobbyist for Monsanto, and evidently Jason Smith is keeping those skids very greased. And this may not, really be happy news for an awful lot of people, but he has a constitutional amendment up, and it's HJR 11 and 7, and I put on my website the communications between his office and myself regarding this act, because it will affect every single person in the state of Missouri. And the issue is this: he's trying to ensconce into our Constitution the right to, without any oversight, engage in agricultural technology forever.
Well, and I raised that topic with him, and of course he defended his position, and I had suggested that some of the language that could be modified, and he didn't really seem to be much interested in looking beyond the issue of his support for it. I'm very concerned about that particular amendment, and frankly, if it's going to go before the state the way it is written now, it should be just defeated, because frankly, it doesn't do us any good at all.
No, it doesn't do us the least bit of good at all. And here's the issue. Smith said that he thinks they fixed potential problems with it by putting in this little change in the perfected language, that no state law shall be enacted which abridges the right of farmers and ranchers to employ agricultural technology and modern and traditional livestock production and ranching practices unless it's enacted by the General Assembly. And his contention is that then we can simply deal with our county commissioners on these issues instead of the General Assembly. Well, the first thing is, this is an insult to the intelligence of all of the citizens of Missouri, because no state law is enacted without the approval of the General Assembly, period.
Right.
And how can you have a constitutional amendment in position that can be modified by the General Assembly?
I don't know. I mean, and what's the point of even having those two? I mean, they're self-canceling out. The whole thing to me just didn't make any sense at all. It's like saying, you're protected until we decide you're not.
Well, exactly. And
if you want to trust Congress, go right ahead. Or our Assembly, go right ahead. But I don't. They've just shown us way too many examples of how we cannot trust them.
Well, there is no protection in this for anybody other than for biotech interests, Michael.
Right.
And the protection for them is that there can be no state law enacted that might abridge their ability to plant whatever they want, or to, grow spider goats or mice pigs or cow humans or any other biotechnology application.
Well,
there would be no prohibition against any of that proliferating within our state.
Yeah.
And, my contention is that, one, the language in this bill, as it would appear on the ballot, is tremendously deceptive. And it is short enough that it should be completely printed out on the ballot so that people can actually look at the language and see what it says.
Well, God forbid that we actually get any straight-up information to be able to make decisions with.
Well, and, unfortunately, a great number of people are touting this as being a very good and positive thing that will stop animal rights activists from, impeding the growing of animal agriculture, basically, having 10,000 chickens in a brooder house and, having hogs in confinement, that type of thing. But it actually is not at all about that.
Well,
so it's deceptive, it's wrong-headed, it's unnecessary, and it will be really damaging to our ability to, continue to have small farms and diversified agriculture. This is an absolute give-me for further consolidation, further centralization, and further control of farmers' ability to profit from their labor.
Well, there is no denying that they've got it in for the farmer, and unless that farmer is well heeled and is willing to fund their next re-election campaign, and of course that
yes.
takes the average farmer out of the running, or at least the small farmer or the family farmer.
Right. Well,
So.
This bill is really even worse than the Monsanto Protection Act, because it would ensconce within the Missouri Constitution protection forever for whatever agricultural technology may be.
Exactly. I would just assume the whole thing not even go before or not even be on the ballot, because frankly, the way it's drafted now, all it does is it doesn't do anything to help the independent farmer. It only helps the agri-giant. And, to me, or agri-tyrant, I'm not sure how you want to couch that. But, look, the simple reality is this. As the thing stands, I would have to be an absolute no vote on it, and without any, without any second thoughts.
Right.
So.
Well, it's, but the issue is Monsanto is indeed headquartered in Missouri, and Monsanto, as you pointed out earlier in the program, spends millions of dollars every year in Washington, D.C., and they're wise about where they put their money.
Sure.
Okay?
They owned Emerson, and they own, and her daughter works for them.
Right.
So, I mean, if you want to see, the inside track of where legislation and the people in power are getting their authority from, folks, just follow the money. And Monsanto is the end of the rainbow. That's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, absolutely. So this piece of legislation, and there's a companion in the Senate, in the Missouri legislature. So we've got House and Senate, and it's sliding through very fast. And the idea is that it's going to protect animal agriculture and to be kind of a stopgap between animal rights activists, which is kind of a problem.
Isn't it amazing how fast this stuff slides through while we can't get something like the Firearms Preservation Act through, regardless of how much fighting and pushing and pressure we apply? We can't get something like that passed, but this thing goes through like a golf ball through a goat. I mean, I tell you what, this is it's just shameful.
Well, right, but I mean, I find it personally offensive that, this clause, the no state law shall be enacted unless enacted by the General Assembly. I mean, that to me is just
who else is going to do that?
In the face.
Really, I tell you what, and it's it's written for. It's written so that people would read it and say, "Oh, that sounds good," but without really grasping the full intent of it. And if you just think about it for a minute, it's to the point where you read it and you think to yourself, "Well, how stupid do they think I am?" And
yes, exactly. I was extremely offended, so I couldn't respond immediately because it would have been expletive.
Right, I got you.
But at any rate, I guess the thing for listeners to take home here is our best efforts are going to be expended in this particular area by making sure that we buy as much as we can directly from farmers, keeping them on the land and allowing us to know what we are consuming.
Exactly.
Exactly. Because the issue is, the way that I see it is, the more that we plant that is actual good seed that you can save the seed from, it reproduces truly, and we have the ability to feed ourselves and to keep our communities viable by doing so, the longer we can put off this complete takeover of the food supply through the gene flow contamination. Because what Monsanto does is they've patented the life forms.
Right.
Yet they can't.
And how do you patent a life form? Only when you own government can you get away with that.
Right. Diamond versus Chakrabarty in 1983 was the door that opened for patenting life forms. And now Monsanto has 94% of the soy in the world.
I mean, it's just beyond comprehension.
Right.
So. Hey, well, listen, thank you again for joining us. Every Friday you enlighten us with great stuff, and I'm grateful for your coming on with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Folks, you're listening to America's Voice. That was Doreen Hannes. She is the creator of prcnews.org and also truthfarmer.com. Make sure that you visit those two websites. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. You can find us at americasvoicenow.org, and you can also find this and every other show that we do up on YouTube at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Thanks so much for joining with us today. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow. We have Marjorie Wildcraft.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.